Let's talk about indie games, the kind of games created by a small group of dedicated people, or in some cases, just one person who decided to take the responsibility of wearing all the hats when it comes to game development. How I see it, the scene of independent game development would not exist without one specific game. Cave Story! If you're unfamiliar with it, this game plays an important role in indie gaming, as it was the first game created independently to reach massive success. Cave Story is a 2004 Metroidvania platformer produced by Pixel Studios. The game took 5 years to make, and was all done by one guy, Daisuke Amaya, aka Pixel. He did the level design, characters, music, programming, and everything else for his then hobby project. It was first released as a freeware game on his website, where anyone can just download it with no need to pay anything. Then, in 2010, developer Nicalis distributed and localized the game for Wii and DSi. Cave Story would then go on to be re-released, remastered, and remade multiple times with rearranged music, updated character sprites, and extra features. The most ambitious remake of this game, in my opinion, would have to be Cave Story 3D for the Nintendo 3DS. Instead of 2D sprites, the entire game got an overhaul with 3D models. It wasn't the best version, but to think they went the extra mile is cool to me. The version I will be talking about today is Cave Story Plus on Nintendo Switch. This is the first version of Cave Story I played, and I got it for Christmas back in 2021. Aside from visual and music differences, the core game of Cave Story will mostly still be there, regardless of which version you play. Now with the basic info out of the way, let's talk about the game itself. Luckily, they talk about the game's plot in the Physical Instruction Booklet. You wake up in a dark cave with no memory. Who are you? Where did you come from? And why have you been left alone in such a place? It's a struggle to recall the answers to these questions. You begin to explore the cave and look for possible escape routes. Before long, you discover Mimiga Village, home of a curious race of rabbit-like creatures called Mimiga, who roam free. As you talk to various denizens of the village, you eventually learn that the once carefree Mimigas are in great danger. Their town, their lives, and even the survival of their species are all at risk because of a terrible external threat. An unseen human oppressor who is said to be using the Mimiga for nefarious purposes against their will. There's only one person who can help the Mimiga. A quiet, amnesic boy who can't even remember his own name. Take control and learn the origins of this world's power. Stop the delusional villain and save the Mimiga. First order of business is to rescue Toroko, a Mimiga captured due to being confused for someone else. Here's where you meet Balrog and Misery, the henchmen of the Doctor, the so-called delusional villain of the game, who we'll see in person later. Balrog, the more square of the henchmen, is left to deal with you, if you're interested in fighting. If not, you can just skip his fight. In case you think I'm lying, here's what happens when you say no to the fight. After that, we find both a key and map system to enter the true first section of the game, the Ache Corridor. This feels like the perfect place to talk about the basic gameplay of Cave Story. Your only line of defense against enemies is the weapons you carry on you. Shooting enemies will drop things like health and upgrades for your weapons, represented by hearts and respectively. Most weapons in this game are leveled up by collecting set Doritos, and the max level for all weapons is level 3. Taking damage will decrease both your character's health and level down your current weapon. A Along the way, you will find different weapons, each one having their own advantages and disadvantages. Keep in mind that each weapon has their own separate level bar. That's the yellow bar on the top left corner. This will mean that if you're looking to upgrade more than one weapon, you have to do a lot of grinding, leveling each weapon to the max one by one. There are 10 weapons in total, but certain weapons require trading any current weapons you have on hand, meaning that you can't have all 10 at the same time. The egg corridor is a simple linear area. Just walk to the right until you reach the end. Well, before you can reach the last section of this area, you first have to find an ID in egg number 6, and then scan it in egg number 1. The eggs are numbered so you'll know which one is which. This is something I honestly would have never have found out myself if I never looked at a Cave Story walkthrough on YouTube. This makes me wonder how Pixel expected us to realize that thing with the ID without looking at a walkthrough. Heck, this makes me wonder about video games in general that have seemingly impossible to get through segments that seem to only be passable with a walkthrough. I'm looking at you, Ocarina of Time 3D. I still wonder how I missed the part in the game where I had to deflect the Deku Scrub's bullets back at him with my shield to defeat him. This is why I'm not a Zelda fan. This thing right here. Anyways, we have come to our first major and mandatory boss, Igor. Midway through the area, Igor holds another character named Sue hostage, who becomes one of your allies after you save her. To save her, you have to defeat Igor. He's not a hard boss to fight. As long as you dodge his charge attack and his, light ball from mouth attack, you'll basically be fine. Just drain his health when you know you're in a safe zone, and then win the fight. We then leave this place with Sue, painstakingly running into all of the enemies you had to face the way you came in. Back at the house, Sue messages her brother Kazuma, telling him about what she's found. Kazuma tells Sue that she's in the bushlands in a shelter with the door jammed shut. Before you can make it back, Sue gets locked in a cage by King, the leader of the Mimigas, with the intention of giving her to the Doctor's goons in exchange for Toroko. Also, it turns out it's not only a cave you're in, but a floating island too. Anyway, you have to talk to Sue so you know to save Kazuma in the bushlands. Back to the teleporter we go! This next area is far more open-ended than the egg carrier. A perfect place to show the Metroidvania elements of Cave Story. You have an inventory with you where you hold important key items. Certain items aren't just for show. For example, here you can get jellyfish juice from these jellyfish enemies. This can be used in fireplaces to discover secret passageways and other items. Items can even be used in places outside of where you found them. This is also the second spot we fight Balrog, but this time you can't skip it. Not after them realizing they should have had Sue with them. This time Balrog can fly, and just like Igor, he too can shoot things from his mouth. After that whole thing is over, the fans get turned on, allowing you to reach higher heights. You then have to go to the shed over here to talk to Kazuma. He's the one who's trapped in the shed. Its door is completely jammed, meaning the only way to get it open is to blow off its hinges. There's a robot where we fought Balrog that can make bombs. They'll just need 3 items: jellyfish juice, charcoal, and gum base. This quest makes you use jellyfish juice 3 times. Once to put out the fire in this purple Mimica's house, once to get charcoal in this other Mimica's house, and once just by itself. Some may call this a fetch quest, and some may call this backtracking. I honestly don't see it as either. Now to get the gum base. Luckily for us, it's in this room where all you do is get the gum base and absolutely nothing else. Just kidding! You have to fight Balrog again, but this time he's a giant frog, appropriately named Balfrog. This time, you have to aim for the open mouth. Enemies also fall from the top of the screen, which you can attack for life and weapon upgrades that you lost. This thing with the enemies will become the standard moving forward. Come to think of it, if the bosses didn't have this, I can't imagine getting any further than that one boss. After that, we free Kazuma and another character named Professor Booster. Both return to Mimiga Village by a hover bike right outside the shed. Neither of them know how it works, so they just crash it. There was only space for 2 people on that hover bike, meaning, once again, I have to walk back to the base by foot, and painstakingly face the same obstacles I had to face getting here again. Isn't this fun? As you return, King learns about an awful truth. The doctor is stealing away Mimigas so he can turn them into bloodthirsty living weapons. This is possible with a plant that is referred to by the Mimigas as the Red Flower, which the Doctor and his goons have found in the Sand Zone, the next place you'll be teleported to. Also, it turns out the character you have been playing as this whole time was a robot, which would have been this huge, mind-blowing reveal if this was still 2004. I don't have a good segue. Onto the Sand Zone! This is where the game really gets good, especially with the introduction of a certain robot girl you meet here. Her name is Curly Brace. Curly was basically 99% of why I wanted to play this game. She's a cute character, and I unironically love her. You can even find her panties lying around in the area you find her in. Pixel knew exactly how to keep people talking about his game. She's a robot like who you're playing as, and also is suffering from amnesia. Why don't you say hi to her right now? What are you talking about? I think you have the wrong person, Curly. Oh, right. Curly, at first, is not someone who takes any chances. If you want to gain her trust, you have to defeat her and her 4 Mimiga children. Gee, for someone who's this committed to protecting the Mimigas, she doesn't think twice about using them as shields. But after defeating her, Curly becomes an ally. So remember, kids, violence is the best way to get people to understand where you're coming from. What do you mean that's not the point? We'll catch up more with Curly later. Sand Zone is also the place with the most aggravating enemies in the game. During my recording session of this game, I found this to be the place I died often. Annoying enemies in this area include, but are not limited to, alligators that pop out of the sand with no warning, buzzsaw things that split into smaller versions of themselves, 3 types of skeleton creatures, and this annoying green bird. Those birds are the most responsible when it comes to my countless deaths. Aside from that, you'll also see puppies scattered around this place. You'll have to be a good Samaritan and give them back to this old woman named Jenka. There's 5 of them to bring home. If you do, you get access to the warehouse with the red flowers. Well, not directly. Here, we finally see the Doctor in person for the first time after seeing him on the Pixel Studios Presents screen. When you boot up the game, the Doctor has his minions feed a red flower to Toroko. Before they could actually do that, King barges in and attempts to save her, but the Doctor was too powerful to be defeated by him. You come in after this whole incident, with the Doctor leaving you to fight a mutated Toroko. Once you defeat her, she dies. There's no snapping out of it when it comes to consuming red flowers. You're either alive and rabid, or flat out dead. King also dies too, but not before lending you his blade. I think I'll use this to avenge him. It's insane to think you just witnessed 2 deaths relatively early in this game, but you're not given time to grieve for them. As soon as you exit the warehouse, misery just sends you to the labyrinth. This is the largest part of this game in both content and size, so I'll just go over the most important parts of this area. But first, I'll talk more about the blade. It's one of my favorite weapons in the game because of its long range of attack and how much damage it can do to bosses when it's completely leveled up. You're definitely going to need to keep this weapon at level 3, because the 2 bosses here could catch you off guard if you have no idea what you're doing. Learned that the hard way with Monster X, the section's first boss. There's missiles flying around everywhere, and getting run over by its treads will cause tons of damage to you. The path to the second boss is preceded by this really fun segment where you meet up again with Curly Brace, and you two just blow the hell out of all these enemies. Even the music here just adds to the overall fun of the segment. My favorite part is when you're low on health. You can just let Curly do all of the sweaty labor when it comes to killing enemies, especially these big fan things. After all that, it's time to beat the labyrinth's end boss, the Core. This boss fight really takes a lot of management, more than Monster X. Most of the difficulty comes from the rising and lowering water. You only have a limited amount of air, so when you see the water rise, get to the highest platforms as soon as possible. You'd be surprised how much more challenging it all becomes with the rising and lowering water. After defeating the Core, Misery and the Doctor come by to take the Core for themselves, while your character and Curly do nothing about it. The plot has to advance in some way. So, where do we go now? My air is getting dangerously low. Is this going to be one of those things where I find out there was something I forgot to do during this part, and I have to fight the Core again? Also, Curly, you don't look so well. You're all to yourself in a way that seems really concerning. Almost as if you know something we don't. Oh, I have a bubble now. That's cool. Wait a minute. Didn't Curly have this bubble on her underwater? That means... No! Not my Robo-Waifu! Curly, being the most caring ally of yours in the game, sacrifices her waterproof bubble so you wouldn't be able to drown. Seeing such a bubbly character now being dormant, lying on the ground is genuinely heartbreaking. To add insult to injury, as soon as you leave the room where the Core once was, the door closes on you, representing that your time with Curly is over. You really think I would take this loss? When I just witnessed two close Mimiga buddies of mine dying in front of my eyes in the previous area? But you still have to keep going. There's a shortcut to get back to Mimiga Village through what's called the Waterways. You will even get a surprise boss encounter with Ironhead, a character that appeared in Pixel's previous and exponentially shorter game, Ika-chan. We finally made it back to Mimiga Village. But where is everyone? Something feels off. I don't see a single Mimiga anywhere. Where did they go? They're probably somewhere else, and we just happened to catch them at the wrong time. Maybe we'll get some answers in the 8 corridor. Whoa! What happened? Hey, Green Robot Man! What happened? There was a violent explosion all of a sudden? Everything was like this after you came back around? What the heck is going on? I don't know either, but I do know for a fact we are at the game's climax. To think that a few hours ago, the 8 corridor was in good condition. Now it's just in ruins. There's stalactites coming down to kill you, dragons flying all around looking like they've got all beat up. It's absolute chaos. Whoever was in here before us clearly had zero good intentions. If only there was a way to know what exactly went on. Luckily, Kazuma found us right before anything really bad happened. He explains that he and the rest of the gang were speeding up preparations for an escape, until Misery came in and took Sue, and Professor Booster from earlier just disappeared. To make matters worse, the Doctor finally acquired the seeds for the red flower. This seems like this might be a victory for him in the end, but I want to think otherwise. What do you plan on doing now, Kazuma? Escape? Only if this means finding a different way to defeat the Doctor. that's it? That can't be the end. Which is what I would say if that was the only ending to this game. What if I told you there were 3 endings in the game? The ending we just went through was the bad ending. You're probably wondering how we get an ending that's better than that. An ending like that is pretty simple to get. You just have to reject Kazuma's request to fly away from the island with him. Sorry Kazuma, but I made a promise that I wouldn't stop fighting until the doctor's dead. We then proceed to climb up the outer wall until we get to the very top. Along the way, we can enjoy this really good music, while we watch out for ghost cats, and those annoying sand alligators from earlier. Oh, Pixel! Why must you torture me? We eventually make it to the plantation. The very plant that turned Toroko into a mindless killing machine grows here. With the help of Mamorin, Sue and Kazuma's mother, and Aito, an ally of Mamorin, you prepare yourself to build a rocket to enter the final fight with the Doctor. After you get through one last gauntlet of enemies and a ton of crazy platforming tricks. Okay, after that whole thing, now is when we fight the Doctor for real. After we fight the Doctor's other henchman, Misery. I always forget he has 2 henchmen. Okay, now is when we fight the Doctor. Finally! It has all led to this! We finally put this complete monster in their place! He only has 2 attacks, and both are a bit of a learning curve to dodge properly. He also has a second form. Did you really believe he was going down that easily? Luckily, this form also has only 2 attacks. Now with that out of the way, let's see where these blocks take us to. Seems a bit empty. Misery seems to have found us and is holding Sue hostage, and gives us an offer where bad things will happen no matter what option we take. Man, if only a conveniently placed distraction happened to take me out of this mental dilemma Misery put me in. Oh yeah! I forgot to tell you, the Doctor has a 3rd phase, and by forgot, I mean intentionally left out. You might have noticed that the Doctor had a red crystal hovering around him. That red crystal has the power of the red flower sucked into one giant destructive object. It's so powerful, whoever's in possession of it can cheat death itself. Something Misery does not approve of. You know a villain is pure evil when their minions have to draw the line. With this power, the Doctor possesses the core, corrupts both Sue and Misery, and does everything in his power to take you down. Their only weak spot is the red spot on the main core that will change faces to telegraph each attack. You'll also have to attack the enemies that Misery summons to get more health and to level up your weapons. Trust me, you'll be losing a ton of health to this guy if you don't know what you're doing. Also, you have to beat Misery and all 3 forms of the Doctor in one go. There are no checkpoints or places to fully restore your health in this gauntlet of bosses. The lack of checkpoints never felt like a drawback to me. With all of that, the Doctor is finally gone. Now all you have to do is get out while you still can! Luckily, Kazuma remembered not to be a heartless jerk and come back for you and Sue. We're saved! But something about this ending still feels a bit off. Sure, you defeated the Doctor, but at the cost of the world you were trying to save. You're even reminded by the fact that Curly is literally dead. That's where the good ending comes in. If you would like to figure out how to get the good ending for yourself, I recommend going to the timestamp on the top right corner. I don't know what it is right now, but that's something I find out in post. This ending requires you to replay the game from the start, while doing things differently. Good news, you get to play the game again. Bad news, you get to play the game again, Also, this was when my cheap Amazon capture card started lagging, making recording this part longer and harder than it really needed to be. Luckily, my dad was okay with me borrowing his capture card for the rest of this video. Shout out to my dad! The good ending of this game requires these specific things. 1. Obtaining the booster V2.0 instead of V.8. To do this, do not talk to Professor Booster until you return to Mimica Village. 2. Saving Curly Braith when she sacrifices herself to save you. This involves using the tow rope on Curly, draining the water from her at the waterway, then carrying her out of the waterway cabin. Finally, you have to restore her memories by feeding her the Mob Pingon. You'll also find out that the character's name you've been playing as is Quote, something that is now completely common knowledge, even if the game intended to be a surprise. Just to keep things simple, I'll start referring to the player character as Quote from this point onward. 3. After fully saving Curly, talk to her again to receive the Iron Bond. This will be important later. 4. While this isn't a requirement for the best ending, I recommend you still return your first gun back to where you got it. You will get the most powerful gun in return. You should have it for the final section of this ending. It will not be easy. 5. And just like in the neutral ending, you, once again, say no to escaping with Kazuma. If everything was done right, you're able to access the Bloodstained Sanctuary after fighting the Doctor for the final time. This is the true final location of the game, and it's just another gauntlet of checkpoint-free survival challenges. Here, you'll take down Balos, the creator of the Demon Crown. That's the powerful thing the Doctor had on his head. This was the hardest part of the game for me, especially the bosses. The only way to stay alive is to not stay in one spot for too long, and if you die at any point, you have to start from the very beginning all over again. I only beat it because I used the life jar Junket gave me earlier in the game. It can restore all of your health, but you can only use them once. Balos really puts up a fight at the end with not just one, but 3 different forms. He makes the Doctor look easy in comparison, and that's putting his final form into consideration. I lost to Balos more times, and got angry at this point, more often than I will admit. But at the end of the day, I did beat him no matter how many times it took me. What you are seeing on screen is actual proof of me beating him. I wouldn't be making this video if I did not play the game fully. With that, everything is better again. Quote, Curly and Balrog all live happily together in a far-off place. Janka and Professor Booster started living together too. Sue and Ido, who you met in the game as Mimigas but were formerly human, found a way to go back to being human. They still have to figure out what's causing their sneezes to turn them back into Mimigas. And Misery, with no one to take orders from, looks to the sky, probably trying to find a new purpose in life. And me? Well, I'm just happy I don't have to go through the final section again. Like most endings to video games, you get to see the names of all the characters and enemies. The enemies have some interesting names. I bet you didn't know the buzzsaw creature's name was Polish. You know, my cousin went on a trip to Poland once. She mentioned how the sun there looked oddly like that enemy. Could just be a coincidence. Also, there is Bat and Beetle. You couldn't come up with any creative names for them? There's also the Door, an enemy with an interesting concept only seen in the beginning of the game and never again. But none of these enemies ever compare to the Green Devil. Look how happy he is. I wish I could be that happy. After beating the game, that's pretty much it. There is extra content you can play after you beat the main game. You unlock 6 different challenge stages, with one of them being a time attack for the Bloodstained Sanctuary. Ironic. You spend all this time clearing a very hard section, only to be rewarded by replaying that very hard section. There's also Curly's story. At first I thought this was going to be some standalone campaign that takes place from Curly's point of view. It's not. It's just Cave Story, but Quote and Curly swap roles. Rest of the game is the same. Well, that was quite the adventure. Cave Story is a game that I wish was talked about more and was brought up more. Even though this game is 2 decades old, I still believe this game should still be talked about as much as whatever indie game is popular whenever you're watching this video. It's a game I believe should never go under your radar. Go play the game on the platform of your choice, and as soon as you're done with the game, tell your friends and acquaintances about it. They will be happy that they know a person who has a good taste in gaming. Don't forget to tell them that there is a cute robot girl in it. Seriously! I've never felt more likeness for a female video game character than her. Nicalis not doing as much with the game in terms of promotion and marketing is really sad to me. The closest they did was having Quote and Curly be playable characters in Blade Strangers and Crystal Crisis, 2 other games made by Nicalis that I might go over in future episodes. There was also a small unofficial spin-off game called Cave Stories Secret Santa. It's essentially Metal Gear, but with Santa, who is actually the name of the Mimiga you play as in this game. But in all seriousness, just play Cave Story. You'll be glad you did. That's all the time I have for now. My name is Master Gamer, making sure you stay in the loop for all the cool video games of today and yesterday. See you next episode!